Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Selby series. Selby is one of 11 subdivisions of the county of North Yorkshire. It's made up of 74 civil parishes, a lot of which are very small. Which one are we in this week? Welcome back to Selby, everybody. Now, this morning I'm starting on a road which we have seen in parts before. If you go this way, down said road, you'll end up in Towton. If you go the other way, you'll end up in Tadcaster, and between the two there's this wall and a gate which is behind this wall. And long-time viewers might remember the Welbeck episode in Basset Law and how I couldn't film anything because it's all a private estate. Well, the same goes for this place, and unfortunately I don't have any footage from Google Maps to show you in this episode, so a lot of this one will be in pictorial form, I'm afraid, because I can't get access to the estate of Grimston. This Selby episode is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find a link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Grimston is one of the smallest civil parishes in Selby, and it lies just to the south of Tadcaster on the A162 as it makes its way towards Towton. Grimston is not a village, rather it's an estate dominated by Grimston Park, a massive Georgian country house. The estate's main gates are located here on the A162, and these are the only bits of film I have of the estate, although you may recall the Kirkby Wharfe with North Milford episode where we stood at the other entrance gates in Kirkby Wharfe village. The name Grimston means Grimr's farm or settlement. It was mentioned in the Domesday Book as Mitune. Grimston was formerly a township in the parish of Kirkby Wharfe until in 1866 becoming a civil parish in its own right. This intro is much shorter than usual, only 50 seconds as opposed to the usual 80, but I have tried to make this as normal as possible. So as you've seen from the signs, it's a private estate and I can't get access to it to show you what's inside. But it wasn't for the want of trying. I did email the Grimston estate office. I didn't get a reply, and I'm not about to break any laws by driving through the estate without permission. So what that means is the rest of this video will have to be in pictorial form. I'm sure there's plenty of things out there which will make this Grimston episode what it is. This still does count as a parish visit, by the way, because the only rule I set myself when I started this project was that I had to set foot inside the boundaries, and I can confirm that here on this road outside the main gates, this is within the boundaries of Grimston Parish. So yeah, you can tick it off the list. Here's the rest of the video, and here's what I found out about Grimston. The estate is strictly private, and without permission you cannot drive into it. Beyond the main gates, a short curved road loops around the mansion before ending up in Kirkby Wharfe. It's not a big place at all, but it can still boast some 14 listed buildings. The largest building on the estate is the enormous Grimston Park. The two-storey house is built of Tadcaster limestone ashlar with a Welsh slate roof. It has a 7-bay frontage with a projecting portico and a 3-storey tower and a single-storey entrance lodge at each end. Although it's been here for centuries, the house was rebuilt in its current style in 1839 to a design by Decimus Burton. It was designed to look like an Italian palace, including large pleasure grounds and a riding school. Amongst the listed buildings on the estate is a limestone water tower, which was also designed by Burton. This was built just after the current house in 1840 and is known by a few names, including the Observation Tower and the Grimston Tower. The estate includes 600 acres of parkland, which forms less than a quarter of the land which falls under its jurisdiction. In total, including all its associated properties and outlying farms, the Grimston estate totals 2,875 acres. So who owns it all, you ask? Well, there's been a few owners here. In the early 1600s, it belonged to the Stanhope family, and in 1603, they hosted King James I and Queen Anne of Denmark when they were on their way to accept the throne of England. In 1812, the estate was owned by John Francis Cradock, the first Baron Howden. It was his son, John Hobart Caradoc, the second Baron Howden, who was the man who commissioned Decimus Burton to rebuild the house in 1839 for himself and his wife, the notorious Russian princess Catherine Bagration. They didn't enjoy it for long because they divorced after 11 years of marriage, and the estate was sold in 1851, this time to Albert Denison, the first Baron Lonsborough. You might recall the name Fielden in the Kirkby Wharfe episode. The entire estate was purchased in 1872 by John Fielden for the princely sum of £265,000. Fielden, the son of a wealthy cotton manufacturer and MP, John Fielden Sr., would go on to be High Sheriff of Yorkshire in 1885. He left it on his death in 1893 to his nephew Thomas, MP for Middleton, who died unexpectedly at an early age in 1897. His eldest son, who inherited the estate, was Captain John Fielden, an Eton-educated Army cavalry officer. Other owners of the estate have included the Gascoignes of Parlington Hall, who we've mentioned countless times before in the Leeds series. It's had other uses too. Parts of the estate were used by the RAF for military purposes during World War II. In the mid-1970s, an organisation called Historic Productions converted the house and stables into an events venue resembling a medieval banquet hall. Since being owned by the Isherwood family, the house has been converted into some 13 luxury apartments. The adjacent parkland, however, still remains in the ownership of the Fielden family. Some outbuildings have been converted to workshops. Perhaps one quirky feature of the estate would be one of the symmetrical gate lodges to the main house. This is Sunset Lodge, which has been dubbed the smallest detached house in Britain, measuring just 10 feet by 8. Ridiculously small. So a bit further up the road, you've got the entrance to Grimston Grange offices, and this is who I emailed to try and get access to the Grimston estate. But of course, like I said, I had no joy. Nobody replied. There's also a phone number as well, but it's a bit short notice now to be ringing them to see if I can drive through. So never mind, that's as good as it's going to be for Grimston, I'm afraid. Time to move on to the next one, which is much bigger than this. In fact, it's the biggest one up in this northwestern corner of Selby. So yeah, let's move on, and I'll see you there next week. I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot. This has been the Parish of Grimston, and I'm out.